The No Nonsense Roundtable, a weekly radio show and podcast where host Dom Geneva interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. And now, here's your host, Dom Geneva.
Well, welcome everybody to a special edition of the No Nonsense Roundtable. And today I am proud to say that I have the Chief of Police of the Rochester Police Force here, and his name is David Smith. And David, welcome to the show. I am a big supporter of everything that that you guys in the service of the community police do for us. I think nobody does it for the money. You're doing it for the better of society, and I think everybody has a message that they need to communicate. And with that, before I start the show, though, I have to read you your rights. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Here are the rights. You have the right to a fair and non-confrontational interview, and without any argument or controversy. Okay. Anything you say will be held against you by those idiots online who are going to complain about anything. Okay. I mean, it's just living forever. And you have the right to interrupt, correct, or dispute anything I say, because I'm going to make some foils in this thing, because I don't do this for a living, and my editing staff is just one person. So do you accept these rights as you know them?
I certainly do.
Okay. So the question I asking people, and I always get the same answer with people in law enforcement, is that, have you wanted to be in law enforcement ever since you were a small boy?
I have, since I was about 14 years old, as a matter of fact.
And what precipitated that? I mean, was there one thing in particular you've seen somebody or an incident? I know I was talking to a police chief once, and it said he and his dad used to watch Cops all the time on TV. So that's what precipitated that. What was it with you at 14?
Well, I certainly did watch a lot of TV in my teenage years, but that was not it. My father actually was a career auto mechanic, diesel mechanic. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a car head like him. And he sat me down one day and explained, all the ins and outs of it, and basically encouraged me to look elsewhere for a profession. But at the time, I already had developed an interest. I was doing police explorers. I grew up in Webster. So I did police explorers. When I was old enough, I joined the Webster Police Auxiliary. Ultimately, when I was going through the criminal justice program at MCC, I did my internship with the Webster PD. And back then, it was very hard to get hired by any department. There was so much competition.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So in '92, when I took the test that I got hired on, I competed with about 5,000 people for 25 positions.
Wow.
Which is, obviously, there is a big disparity between what we're looking at today and what it was then.
Well, the thing is that back then there was a level of respect that came with the job.
Yes.
And not to put words in your mouth, but I mean, you were on. One of the things that happened with people in police police work is that you were respected and honored and looked up to, and that, I mean, that's changed since when? Since 2021. I mean, what is your perception of this thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely, and the sheriff is fond of saying it, these past few years has been, for law enforcement, the equivalent of, Vietnam, and what the troops faced coming home from Vietnam. And it's not so much that, we were defunded because we weren't budget wise, but we were defamed. And it's a nationwide thing. It's not just us. Obviously, we went through our own issues here. But it was a nationwide thing, and it's going to take a long time to recover from that, if indeed we ever do. I mean, culturally, you look at us, it's not just police officers don't get treated with respect. By and large, we don't treat each other with respect across, any spectrum now, between social media, our social interactions. There's just not a lot of respect out there culturally anymore.
Well, I have a series of little videos that I've done lately. I wrote an article for the Rochester Business Journal. It's called Social Media Myopia, and I've got comments from the mayor, from the county executive, Bob Duffy, Jeff Tyzik, how social media has been used, especially by the big companies, to foster discontent. Because
Mm-hmm.
fostering discontent gets you more clicks, more likes, more advertising, and so the people that are the people that are on the edges now have voice that they never had before. Okay, so you get people that are arguing against oxygen. People that
Yes.
think that the world is flat. No matter what you do, you're wrong. They never had that voice years ago, and so they have that voice. They're being encouraged to have that voice, and that's why. To that point, why don't you comment on that yourself? Because this would make a great little. I do these like 3 minute videos, and you tell me.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is the danger, right? I mean, you have a very small minority who now have a very large voice. And a lot of folks, I think a majority of the folks, are simply afraid to speak up because they're afraid of, they don't want to become the victim. You know what I mean? Whether it's social media or in person, with the doxing that goes on,
Hmm.
the targeting of folks, um, oh, it was just, I can't think of the term right now, but whenever everyone decides, okay, we're all going to pile on this guy because he did something we don't like,
Right.
and we're not going to go to his shop, we're not going to buy his product, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. There really is very little ability for folks to agree to disagree anymore
Right.
in
Right.
civil discourse, and it's a shame because civil discourse is what this country was founded on, right? Uh,
Right. But it was peaceful protest back in the day. Peaceful
yes.
protest back in the day meant that you sat down someplace and you weren't going to let people into the building, but then you got arrested yourself. But that's what happened, is that you got
Mhm.
arrested. You didn't fight with anybody. You weren't throwing Molotov cocktails and rocks. You gummed up the system, and that was in the umbrella of what Martin Luther King would teach, and Gandhi. Now it's turned into abject violence is accepted for whatever reason. That's my
Yeah, I
opinion.
mean, in the early days of my career, my first experience with, working with protests. Of course, you go in as a young cop and you're thinking, oh, we have to keep order, and these people are going to do this. But the reality is, we would go and we would meet with the organizers, and we would ask. I was astonished the first time I saw this. It was like, do you have volunteers that want to be arrested? Because they would. They
Right.
would say, yeah, so and so is planning on being arrested today. They would like you to arrest them because they want to go to court and litigate. And it's like, okay. And then we would take the volunteers that wanted to be arrested, and we
Hmm.
would arrest them peacefully and process the paperwork. And they were then very happy with the fact that they were going to get introduced to the court system because that's what they wanted.
Well, I have a good friend of mine who, her name is Carol Crossett. I started interviewing her because she owns the original house that, um, uh, um, oh my God, I got a senior moment. Susan B. Anthony owned
Yes.
back in the day, and she was on the show for that. And at the end of the show, she goes, "Well, I've done some work with some social things." She goes, "Yeah, well, back in the day." We would do this peaceful protesting for human rights. She goes, and it was my job to teach people how to get arrested.
Hmm.
She's like a 4 foot
Yeah.
11 woman. It's like I would teach people how to get arrested because that was the whole thing. You gummed up the law enforcement uh, atmosphere, whatever your jails and whatever, not by throwing rocks and Molotov cocktails, but by gumming up the system of bringing
Yeah.
people into the jail. Right? I mean, that was it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So, one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you, as soon as I could, is I had Greg Bello on the show the other day,
Hmm.
And Greg is great. I mean, I have, they say I have a great voice. I have a voice for radio and a face to match. He's got a voice, he's got a voice for TV and he's got a look to match, right? And we were talking about the change in the gun violence, and the new tactics and strategy that you have. And it's sort of like analogous to, Al Capone. You caught him on the tax evasion, not necessarily the violence, but you have this new strategy that you're using with gun violence and people that are victims of it. And explain that whole thing to everybody because they might not have heard that the first time.
Yeah, so we actually have, I mean, two or three programs that we've initiated the past few years. The main one, actually, and it is a New York State program. So it's the GIVE program, the Gun Involved Violence Elimination Program. It is state funded. We get guidelines from the state. Historically, we weren't always really good at actually trying to follow the program. So we would take the money and then just, deploy the cops out there to, okay, there's been a lot of gunfire in this area. Go out here. But there wasn't really any organization to it. There was no intelligence building to it as far as, well, who are we actually looking for out here? It was more of, we'll take the overtime, we'll do a saturation patrol. Well, writing tickets to the taxpayer on his way into work isn't really going to stop violence,
Hmm.
right? So we really embraced the tenets of the state program. And in fact, we're a model give city for New York State now. But it's basic principles. But again, it's making sure that there's follow through. We're holding folks
Hmm.
accountable. Our folks, they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. So what we did is, we looked at instead of areas, we divided our gunfire incidents down to street segments.
Hmm.
And, we found that 90%, somewhere around 90% of our gun related incidents happen on somewhere around 15% of our street segments.
Hmm.
Well, then you take a look at that street segment. Why? What are the drivers in that area? And there's all kinds, we know, of issues that influence crime. But the main interrupter that we found is, again, not taking that street segment and going down there and doing stop and frisk and controversial programs. It's putting an officer down there on foot patrol. Dr. Coper, who did quite a few studies that the GIVE program is based on, found that just having a uniformed officer at random times in a street segment for 15-minute periods sporadically through a day
Hmm.
has a significant influence on crime. And that's exactly what we do. The officers, besides the overtime details, the officers in the car beats are encouraged to, 15 minutes, a couple times a day, get out of the car, do the foot patrol,
Hmm.
engage the folks in the businesses, engage the folks in the community. And it's had a dramatic effect. Nationwide, we all know the numbers are down from, the pandemic years from 2021.
Hmm.
But we do look at year to year, but we try and look at 5-year averages, 10-year averages for trends. In Rochester, we are below where we were pre-COVID,
Mm.
which is below pretty much everyone else nationwide. So yes, there's been a drop. Our drop has been significant. This past May,
Hmm.
um, our gunfire incidents were the lowest we've had in 26 years in Rochester, which is pretty remarkable.
Well, that's what Greg was saying too. He was saying, especially with these murder investigations, he was saying that you are more aggressively going after the fella or the gal with the gun, rather than depending on the victim to testify that or the witness to testify on what happened, because the witnesses, from what I understand, what he said, you can comment on this if I'm listening to
Mhm.
this, if I'm hearing this right, is that. Uh, it's very difficult to get some people in some circumstances to testify on a crime. However, you can go out after somebody who is illegally using a gun or has a gun that is not registered or whatever. That's easier to do than actually get witnesses to come forward on a crime. And so the whole deal with what you're talking about kind of melds well into strategy and tactics.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you look at our homicides, traditionally, we've always had a very high homicide clearance rate. Well, I mean, and don't get me wrong, homicides are not easy to investigate, but in a homicide, you never have an uncooperative victim.
Hmm.
The state takes the prosecution goes forward. Traditionally, in a non-fatal shooting, the mindset has been, you have a victim that doesn't want to prosecute, doesn't want to go forward. Why are we wasting resources on it? Just let it go. You have an
Mm.
uncooperative victim.
Yep.
The case is closed. We're done. We're not going to waste resources on it. We have better things to do. Well, in reality, no. We
No.
don't.
Yeah.
So, when you treat, so we form the non-fatal shootings unit in cooperation with the district attorney's office.
Yeah.
So most non-fatal shootings now are investigated like a homicide. An assistant district attorney goes to the scene.
Hmm.
And I mean, first of all, we've found we have gotten better cooperation from a lot of our victims.
Hmm.
A lot of our victims are feel more confident about talking to an assistant district attorney rather than us sometimes. It
Hmm.
opens some doors in that way. But yeah, the other thing is we also look at, all right, if our victim doesn't want to prosecute, can we still get the information for who the shooter was? What can we put together to now go after this shooter? Because typically, someone with an illegal
Hmm.
firearm doesn't just commit one crime, they commit multiple crimes.
Hmm.
You take that one person off the street, how many crimes are you now preventing that before, by shrugging your shoulders and moving on, you were going to let that perpetrator keep perpetrating crimes?
Right. You are using I think it's a brilliant strategy. It is absolutely a brilliant strategy because you're getting somewhere in this chain of events. You're capturing somebody in the chain of events that is going to create more problems down the road, and it doesn't necessarily require somebody who witnessed the action to get up on the stand because they don't want to expose themselves to the retribution they would get
Yeah.
from that individual. I think that's absolutely fantastic. So,
Yeah. So, I mean, we started this, I think we're in our fourth year
hmm.
with about a 14% clearance rate for non fatal shootings. We're hovering around a 50%
Hmm.
clearance rate today. And we have actually had some cases go forward into court without a victim, and we've still prosecuted them
Mm.
without the victim
Yeah.
coming in to testify.
So let me throw a couple of questions out there to you, and then you can just comment on. I'm just gonna. Yeah, this is. I love yoga. Every once in a while, I'll meld in a silly story. The silly story is that a guy was interviewing Yogi Berra one day. He says, well, we're going to do some word association. He says, let me give you a guy. He says, Joe DiMaggio, and Yogi Berra goes, what about him? That's not word. Yeah, okay, Yogi, that's fine. But bail reform.
Uh, Necessary, but needs to be fixed. We all know it happened for a reason.
Hmm.
Not largely because I don't think a lot of local practices, but again, uh, New York City is part of New York State. And there were a lot of issues with folks that were incarcerated. We're talking pretrial incarceration here.
Hmm.
But you know again, like anything, when you try and fix something, you shouldn't just look at, all right, we're going to fix it, this is the be all end all fix. You have to look
Hmm.
at it. You have to then evaluate what your fix did, and then you may need to make more fixes. And we're not making the fixes to correct the fixes from the first time. So, we struggle with, uh, you know, pretrial incarceration on some levels. I mean,
Hmm.
initially, we went to our federal partners for our gun cases, and sent a lot of our firearms arrests through the federal system because, again, better pretrial detention system. And like I said, you have someone who has done a shooting, you have someone with an illegal gun. They're not just committing one crime, they're committing multiple crimes.
Mm-hmm.
We want to break the cycle of that. And that was very successful. But again, as we knew, the federal system has a saturation point. They're not designed to handle the workflow that the state system is. So, very quickly, we kind of maxed out their capacity. They still take cases for us on a regular basis, but, we try and, screen them as best we can so that we're not inundating the federal system quite as much as we were. But again, we don't quite have the volume. I mean, we're still getting a ton of guns off the street, but the volume is not there because as the crime has gone down, the volume of our arrests have gone down some as well.
Well, that is the expression I use is that the worst law of all is the law of unintended consequences.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Exactly.
have I mean, you have good. I don't deride people for saying that we need to handle social issues. At the level of just humanity. But on the other hand, I like the way that Todd Baxter framed this for us on the show. He goes, yes, you need to have fireproof carpets and chairs and walls in your high school. Okay, fine. It says, but you also need a fire truck to
Yes.
come and put out a fire when there is a fire. So
Yes, absolutely.
yes, you need the police you need somebody with a gun to stop somebody else with a gun. There's no amount of social exploration you're going to do this to solve this, but you also have to solve the problems of humanity. And some things are not our fault, but they're our responsibility. We're left with a set of circumstances that from generations ago, but then asking the police department to solve these things is kind of tough. I mean, especially when you're talking about domestic issues, right?
Yeah. Well, and again, since the start of the 911 system, which again, great system, but when you call 911, the 911 center has to send someone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have the fire department, they have EMS, they can send you. So
Mm-hmm.
if it's not on fire and you're not bleeding, you're getting the police. So we
Mm-hmm.
become the catch-all for everything. And, traditionally, I mean, we're a lot better now with our training as far as de-escalation, um, things like that. But we're not social workers. And oftentimes, to ask us to go in and fix a problem, sometimes, in a few minutes, that's taken years to develop, it is not always the right solution.
What? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and just the other thing I wanted before we get too far away from bail reform is
Mm-hmm.
New York State is the only state that does not have a dangerousness standard. So the judges are not allowed by statute to decide, hey, is this person a danger to the community if I let them back out?
Mm-hmm.
They're only allowed to consider, are they a flight risk? If I let them out, are they going to show up for trial or are they not going to show up for trial? That's the requirements they have for setting bail, not setting bail, detaining someone. So again, we have judges for a reason. Give them the ability to make a
Oh yeah.
decision. Give them the ability to say, no, I think this person's going to go out and shoot someone else if I let them out. This
Mm-hmm.
is somebody I want to hang on to, But the other thing is, for a lot of low-level offenses, it's taken some tools out of our toolbox. And one that I talk about all the time is human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
So it used to be, because I ran a lot of them, if we were going to set up a sting operation for human trafficking, we would get a hold of the judge that was handling arraignments, a week ahead of time and say, we're going to be doing a detail. We're going to be bringing in a lot of traditionally females that are going to be picking up on this sting. But we know from experience, most of them are going to have substance abuse problems. Most of them, they're going to need these things. The judge would know ahead of time. The judge would have folks from our partners, diversion programs in the courtroom that morning. And a lot of times the judge would then hold them. Look, I'm gonna hang on to you for 24 to 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, one of the best places to get folks into the diversion system is Sheriff Baxter's jail. He's got all the
Hmm.
programs right there. You get somebody in there for 24 to 48 hours, they're starting to provide these people services
Hmm.
right then and there the second they walk in the door. We don't have that now. We do a human trafficking detail. They get an appearance ticket. And yeah, they get enough appearance tickets. Eventually, they probably get a bench warrant. But we get warrants that come out, say, issue appearance ticket. So where we have no ability to get quite these girls, these females, who quite frankly are victims as well, into any kind of diversion.
Hmm.
It's so what you need is you need street outreach and street outreach, street outreach, street outreach. Well, that's not us. And
Right.
there's a very limited ability for other agencies in the city and the county, quite frankly, to do the necessary street outreach that we need for these folks that are caught in sex trafficking because of their addictions and the problems they have in their lives.
Yeah, and they don't want to come out. They don't want to come forward themselves. And the other thing is that you let somebody out, especially in a situation as violent, as my understanding, you're letting somebody out that really should be held in the jail, cooled off,
Mm-hmm.
and settled down, immediately out to go take revenge on the person that they were abusing to begin with. Is that pretty much true sometimes?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, the purpose of a disorderly conduct arrest, which is what we would always do for fighting in public. You've got folks fighting in public. They're going at each other. You break up the fight, they're still hot. I mean, even if we're gonna, arrest them and put
Yeah.
them in a car for half an hour and do some paperwork and let them go, they're still gonna find each other probably some point later on that day and go at it again. So, again, the purpose of the disorderly conduct arrest was not necessarily long-term criminal prosecution. It was let's give everybody a timeout.
Yeah.
Let's give you a timeout. You can go see the judge in the morning. He's probably going to do time served and you're on your way. But you had that cooling off period. You didn't
Yeah.
get yourself killed. You didn't kill anybody else.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You, if there is ever was a case for the danger that you guys put yourself in with these domestic issues is Denny Wright. I mean,
Yes.
oh my God. I mean, tell the story of Denny Wright for those people that don't know, if you would, please.
So Denny Wright, a good friend of mine, actually, I trained him when he came to the
Oh,
RPD.
really?
Trained him in Genesee section, and he promised me he was going to come back. And then he went on. We always rotate after you get
Hmm.
certification. So he went on his rotation to Clinton section. And then he called me one day and he said, I know I promised I was going to come back to Genesee, but I think
Hmm.
I'm going to stay in Clinton. I really like it here. And he did. Career in patrol, in Clinton section as an officer. Always just wanted to be a cop. He had no interest in being a supervisor. Just loved being a cop. And he went to a call for a domestic slash emotionally disturbed person who was having some issues. Wound up being in the house by himself. He was the only officer and was attacked quite violently by an individual with a butcher knife. In the end, Denny he lost his sight in both eyes, was permanently blinded, and was unable to, besides the effect it's had on his entire life. He'll tell you, if I could get in a blue and white today and go do the job right now, I would. He wants to still be out there doing it. And all of that was taken away from him and his family in an instant on what is really, I mean, a routine call. Domestics, uh, mental health calls is a large portion of what we do, especially in the city.
Well, the thing is, and he's kept his attitude, his view of life. I interviewed him on the show, and a couple of things that are just absolutely priceless. He said he goes and gives these talks
Yeah.
about um, about police for police work and whatever. And he says one of the kids. He says I actually embarrassed the kid. He says I really didn't mean to. He says, well, if you ever saw this guy again, what would you do? He goes, I'm blind.
Yeah.
And somebody else asked a question. He says, "Well, what would you have done differently that day?" And he goes, "I would have taken the day off." I mean,
Yeah,
but this is a guy who
that's Denny.
lost. Yeah, yeah, that's so you knowing him as well as you do, you know that this guy is I mean, he's a mensch, he's a mensch.
Yeah.
He's a guy's guy. He's a good guy.
Yep.
He's got a good
Yep.
soul. And even
And,
though he got blinded, yeah, even though he got blinded, he's still using that to make his mission.
yeah. And so he just last week was his formal retirement from the department.
Hmm.
But he remains on as an ambassador for the RPD.
Yeah.
So that means he's going to, continue to speak at the academy as he does. If we have events nationwide, we will send him. He gets to wear the RPD uniform. He gets to represent the department. Because I mean that's just what he does, and he's great at it. And I'm glad that he wants to continue to do it. And as long as I am here, and I mean, if the next chief tells him, Denny, you can't go do this anymore, then the next chief is a fool. He'd be
Yeah.
stupid to do it.
No, but he's just a wonderful human being. And this stuff that, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know, us, the public, the things that you go through like this, that,
Well,
they're
and and,
scary,
and what a lot of folks
scary.
what
Yeah.
a lot of folks don't know about Denny's incident. I mean, folks know that, Denny did discharge his weapon during the fight, but he wasn't shooting at this suspect.
Hmm.
They were fighting over his gun, and Denny was afraid he was going to lose his gun, and more people were going to get hurt. So Denny purposely dropped the magazine, the clip out of the gun. And, even with that, we always have one round in the chamber, if you know how firearms work. So Denny knew he had to pull that trigger to get that last round out of the gun so that the gun was, not loaded and ineffective if he had lost control of it. And that's exactly what he did.
Amazing guy. So let me hear you. Let me throw another word at you here, or words. Police Accountability Board.
Yeah. Well,
I love it that we're on Zoom now because you can see expressions on people's face. Police Accountability Board. You can pass on you can pass on the
no,
question
oh
if you
no,
want.
no, because I mean, first of all, they are another city department. They're another city entity.
Mhm.
So, I'm not gonna throw shade any more than I would at, the Department of Environmental Services,
Mhm.
because I don't know how to plow snow. Let's be honest. But I will tell you, there are police accountability boards, there are civilian review boards all over this country that actually work. Um, the police accountability board, in the way it was designed, did not work. Um, Still does not work.
Mhm.
Uh, and as a result of it, what I lost is a benefit as chief of police is I have never had a civilian review board during my tenure. So that means when I get these internal affairs cases and I have to review them and I have to make a decision on discipline,
Mhm.
I do not have the benefit of having some civilians who looked at the case and said, "Well, here's what we think." And that's what the Civilian Review Board did. And former chiefs that I have talked to found that that was a benefit to them to give them a different perspective when they have to make these difficult decisions. I have not had the benefit of that at all. I have to
Mhm.
make these decisions by myself. I wish I had that. Uh,
Mhm.
there is a place for civilian oversight, but we have to be careful with that. There's a reason that doctors evaluate doctors. There's a reason that airline pilots evaluate airline pilots. So, you can't hire folks who don't know how the police function, and then expect them to be able to effectively oversee. Uh, and so,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they're still there. I have a great relationship with Dr. Leslie Myers Small, but
Mhm.
right now, the only thing they're allowed to do is make policy recommendations,
Mhm.
which, okay, we have new policies that are rolling out. I'll send them over. I get their input. They've had some ideas that we've enacted. I'm not opposed to that. They've come back with some things like, well, have you thought about doing this? We were like, no, that's a good idea. And we did it. But as far as them being able to investigate, and it wasn't set up correctly from the get-go. Um, and it's
Yeah.
just
Well,
it is
you
what
have
it is.
something. You have something that's analogous to the medical business where you have malpractice. So, I mean, if you have people that are not doctors making a determination what malpractice is, but they're not doctors, they don't have the education to do that. So that's exactly what you're saying. I would.
Right. And
That's
it's
how I
no
would interpret that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's no different
Yeah.
than, we get the YouTube video out there every day of, oh, this is police brutality, this is police brutality. Well, we take a look at all of them, and
Hmm.
most times it's like, well, no, here's what they're doing, here's what they were trained to do, and here's why they're doing it. But again, if you don't know
Hmm.
that, and now
Right.
you see this video and you're like, wow, that's police brutality, and you think you're gonna look at it, you're gonna investigate it when you don't know what the training is, when you don't know what the state law
Hmm.
is, when you don't know what the federal law is, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure.
Well, I totally can agree with that because these days you have these snippets, and we were talking about social media and whatever. Some people think that the world is flat,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't convince these people. So there are going to
No,
be people that are going to say that is police brutality no matter what you do.
right. But the bottom line is people believe what they want to believe,
Right.
and you're not going to change it.
Hmm. Okay, since we're talking about that, body camera.
Mm-hmm. Love them. Absolutely love them. They
Yeah.
they help far more than I mean, they're a tremendous resource. Oftentimes, because again, we get folks calling up saying, well, your officer did XYZ, and we pull it right away and we're like, yeah, they did nothing of the sort. Do you want to, start over again?
Hmm.
Um,
Well, some of these things take a life on their own. This doesn't have anything to do with body cam. But remember Jesse Smollett? When
yep. Yes. Yep. I do.
he's going for a Subway sandwich, 2 o'clock in the morning. He gets allegedly accosted by a couple of guys who with MAGA hats who put a noose around his neck, and the
Yep.
media took off on that. Poor
Yeah.
Jesse and whatever.
Yep.
And none of it was true. None of it
Nope.
was true.
Nope.
If there was a street camera there someplace, they could have handled that right away.
Yep.
Uh,
And oftentimes, folks, I mean, we know there's folks that are not fans of us. I mean, they'll edit the videos that they
oh
have
yeah,
just to cast us in a bad light. So
yeah.
again, unless you have the unedited and the whole picture, it's, but again, we live in a I mean, how long is an Instagram segment? It's
Oh
all
yeah, yeah.
it used to be everybody said our attention span was 30 seconds because that's what
It's not
commercials.
even that. Yeah.
I think our attention span is about 10 seconds now.
No, you're right, and you can see that online because if I post something that's longer than 5 minutes, it gets no views at all. If I have a 2.5 minute view of Don Alhart talking about basically talking about life and whatever, it's got 67,000 views because it's 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, YouTube Shorts.
Oh
That's what
yeah,
everybody wants.
yeah, that's what everybody wants. Nobody wants to read anymore. I have a book. Nobody wants to read it anymore. They want it.
I
They
s-
want it. They want it in snippets.
yep.
Snippets.
Well, I
Um,
still I still read. You can't see because of the glare on the glass, but I actually have books in there.
Oh yeah, my wife is a voracious reader. I mean, she reads books before she goes to bed and whatever. I envy her. I read like 3 pages and I fall asleep. So that's
Yeah.
that's what it is. Now, one of the things I think that um it's kind of a sensitive question, and I think this is kind of important. What do you say to those people that are in the suburbs that and there are some of them. I don't know if it's a fear and anxiety or whatever, and they say we don't want to come down to Rochester, downtown Rochester, because of the violence. What do you say to those people? There are people in the suburbs that they don't want to come to this theater or that theater or this restaurant or whatever. And I'm not saying it's a majority of people, but there's a number of people, I believe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, again, it's perception. It's not reality.
Hmm.
And before I came to this job, I spent a few years as the commanding officer of the downtown section.
Ah,
And people would ask, what section are you in charge of? And I would say downtown. And they'd be like, ooh. And I'd be like, no, actually, I said, we have the lowest crime of any section in the city. And here's why. Here's what I actually have. But again, the problem continues to be the public order issues that again aren't necessarily a police problem. So you come downtown and you see folks sleeping on the
Mm-hmm.
benches on the sidewalks. You see the panhandlers at the intersections, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are intimidated by them.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you don't want someone coming up to your car window or approaching your car. It makes you feel very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, and that is the reality of it. But especially during the day, the service providers for these folks are downtown. The Social Security office is
Mm-hmm.
downtown. Catholic Family Charities is downtown. The transit center is downtown. So you have all these folks coming downtown for services on top of, you've got, your homeless folks sleeping here and there. And,
Mm-hmm.
again, years ago it was easy, but it's not a problem. It was easy to say we're going to arrest them, and that's how we're going to handle it. Well, again, that tool is gone. So again, you want to deal with the panhandling problem, you want to deal with the homeless problem. It is outreach, 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 and it is not something in this day and age we're going to arrest our way out of.
The over the year that you got this job in 22.
21. So this
Okay.
October will be, if you count my interim time, which
Mm-hmm.
was 6 months as interim, this October will be my 5-year anniversary.
Okay. Well, and I think one of the things that people don't grasp or understand is that maybe we should talk to this at the beginning of the show. The job of a police chief is structurally different than a sheriff. So the
Yes.
police chief, you're employed at the pleasure of the mayor,
Yes.
and you don't have to get elected.
No.
Okay, but you still have to make everybody happy.
I do. I
That's
do.
right. And and Bob,
Absolutely, I do.
yes, you do. And Bob Duffy said this on one of my interviews, and he said, I try to do things behind the scenes. He says I don't get public with very many things because when you make a politician angry, their memory is only 30 years, and I'm not going to live that long.
Yeah.
So, so I think one of the things that people don't understand is the political environment that you have to operate under no matter what. Now Todd gets elected. I mean, the downside to
Mhm.
him is if people think he's screwed up and whatever, they vote him out of office and whatever.
Mhm.
You are not in a position where you have that flexibility. You have to make Trump happy, and you got to make Hochul happy. You got to make everybody happy. And I think there's a lot of things that people don't understand about the difficulties of your job. What's the most difficult thing that you have?
Um, well, yeah, again, the politics of it. And again, I have a great relationship with this mayor. He has supported me. We both had a steep learning curve when we came into this, and I think we've learned a
Mm,
lot together.
hmm
And we've grown a lot together in our journey on this. But yeah, I try and stay out of the politics. I look at it as I got some very good advice early on is, your job is to be the chief for everybody, and to do what is best for the department. So I try and constantly look at, I'm the steward of the department. I want to leave it better than I found it. Um, and that's the mindset, what I try and weigh every decision on what is best for the department to keep this department moving forward, to keep our relationships in the community, to keep our credibility, and so that we have the ability to do our job. Because again, when we lose credibility from the community, we lose the ability to do our job. And that was another great example of 2021. Nobody was going to tell us what was going on,
hmm
and therefore we have no ability to prosecute crimes.
hmm
When we lost everyone's faith, we lost the ability to do our job.
Here, I'm going to give you a gift. Here's the gift. Talk
Okay.
about recruitment.
So we're doing better this
But
year.
it's a great, I mean, seriously, it's a great job.
It
It's
is.
a
It
dangerous
is.
job, it's got
Yep.
to be a rewarding job. Yeah, let's see. I'm the marketing guy. I put you in a direction here. You can make a commercial out of this. Go right ahead
So
because
it
I
is,
think, you know,
yeah,
go ahead.
it is definitely a calling. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to want to do this. But first of all City of Rochester employees get free health care, period. You don't
Whoa.
even contribute out of your paycheck. It is
Whoa.
free health care.
Whoa. There are a lot of
Uh,
people paying $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month for health care for their
yeah,
family.
exactly. And it's very good health care.
Wow.
The last contract the city signed with the Rochester Police Locust Club, the police union.
Hmm.
The pay is, I mean, for a long, I mean, I think they worked a number of years with no contract, no pay raises.
Hmm.
So the pay is very much. I think there's one town uh, that makes more. Their officers make more pay than the city officers, but that's it. So the pay is excellent, the benefits are excellent. If you want to do police work and you want to be on the varsity team, then this is the place to
Hmm.
be. A year experience in the RPD is equivalent to 5 years experience in any of the other agencies in the
Hmm.
county. We have the SWAT team, we have K9, we have the bomb squad, we have the scuba team, um, we have the hostage negotiation team. Plus, I mean, we have the ability to, if you want to move up, be promoted and be a supervisor, we have a lot of levels of supervision. So there's and a lot of detectives. We have the
Mm.
major
Yeah.
crimes, the homicide detectives. We have the narcotics detectives, the guys that don't shave and go around and buy drugs. And we have the street level, the non-fatal shooting detectives, and then the street level detectives.
Yeah.
So, you have the ability in this department to really kind of reinvent your career every
Hmm.
3 to 4 years as you go through it. And every time you do, it really is, like another job. I mean, every time I ranked up, through, it's just, it's like a whole nother career. It's like starting over again.
Well, the other thing, you have a marketable skill. I mean,
Yes.
you have a marketable skill. So your retirement is what, 20 years? Is that it?
So they're tier 6 now, which
Uh-huh.
is, I that's been in effect for several years.
Yeah.
Um, yes, it is still 20, but it's not so for example, I could have done, when I
Hmm.
hit 20, I could have left with 50%, and I didn't have to contribute anything. They're tier 6, they do contribute some now,
Hmm.
and they don't leave with quite as much at 20, but you still can do 20, 25
Right.
now. And right now, if you do 25, you walk away with health care for the rest of your life.
Oh my Lord, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is.
Just, yeah, people don't understand the value of that because this healthcare. Well, from owning the dealership, man, I tell you, it has really changed in the past 20 years, the healthcare thing, and that it's only getting worse. And the other thing is that, quite frankly, it is a calling. I mean, I have a lot of respect for you guys that do what you do because at the end of the day, like I said, you're doing it. You might be doing it for security and whatever in your life, but you're not doing it for the money. This is
No,
this is a calling that you're doing something to help society, all told. And of course, not everybody is suited to the job. I mean, that's just the way life is. There's nothing, there's no perfect. I mean, it's another Yogi Berraism. If the world was perfect, it wouldn't be. Ah,
that's true.
love.
Well, if the world was perfect, we wouldn't need police. That's for sure.
Oh, that's right. Somebody could just call it in. It could be all AI, wherever that's going. So,
I mean,
uh,
the other part of that
yeah,
too is,
yeah.
in recent years, we've gotten a lot better at taking care of, police officers, recognizing,
Hmm.
the
Oh, yeah.
stress and how to effectively deal with it.
Right.
I was talking to a colleague yesterday, from another major city here. But
Hmm.
he had about, when he left, he came out around when I did. I'll have 35 years with the
Hmm.
police department soon. So he was a 30 plus year veteran. And we were talking about way back when, and he said, yeah, he remembered when he was on a very high stressful incident, and his supervisor came around at the end of the shift and was like, "You good?" He's like, eh. And he told him and his partner, "Make sure you go to the bar after work." That
Hmm.
was the solution, is make sure you go to the bar after work.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only help you got.
Yeah.
And it is just so different now. We are constantly, you know, our supervisors are looking constantly, hey, what did this officer just, oh my goodness, so and so just dealt with this. I'm going to make sure they get a wellness referral. I'm going to make
Oh,
sure
absolutely.
wellness reaches out to them. I'm going to make sure, we have a partnership with the Flower City Chaplain
Hmm.
Corps who support us tremendously. So, we have a critical incident now. These officers are getting, you have an option. You can go to employee assistance. You
Hmm.
have our own in-house wellness unit. You have the Flower City Chaplains you can go to. You take your pick, whatever you're comfortable with,
Hmm.
but we're going to get you support and we're going to get you through it.
Well, I think that I think in a good sense, we have some essence of understanding what PTSD is that we didn't
Mhm.
years ago.
Yeah, I
Back
mean,
in the day, especially with like the Vietnam vets and whatever. I mean, the things that they saw and then they come back and like you were saying at the beginning of the interview, they're vilified and they're called baby killers and whatever. And what they had to go through silently without any support. And then you wonder why so many of them has had so many psychological problems. And
yeah, and I mean
yeah.
the theory of cumulative PTSD is really a fairly new, people. I mean, before World War II, it was shell shock,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
then it became PTSD. But then still, everyone was looking at, well, what was the one incident? Well, we've come to discover that it doesn't have to be one incident. It
Hmm.
could be multiple incidents over the course of your career. I mean, you look at an 8-hour day, especially for a Rochester police officer. They're going to a hot call, their adrenaline's up here. They get
Hmm.
done, they get the adrenaline dump. They go to another hot call, their adrenaline goes back up. They get done, it goes back down. And how many times a day, how many times a week, how many times a year can you do that without it having significant effects on your body?
Well, God bless you for what you guys do. I, I couldn't do it. But thank God we have people like you that do. So with that, give me a couple of last words. We're pretty much at the end of our time here.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it. For all those wondering, as I said, coming up on my 35th year, still love it.
Hmm.
Not looking to go anywhere. I think as a department, we're in a good spot, but we can always get better. Uh, I say that to my folks every day. We can always do better. As well as we're doing, we can always do better. We need to constantly self-examine and looking at where we can do better. And just, I think the staffing thing is starting to turn around. I hope and pray that it is,
Hmm. Yep.
because I certainly don't want to have to downsize this department.
Hmm.
And just I appreciate the support. And we know the majority of the folks out there support us. We also know
Hmm.
that oftentimes they're just afraid to say it. So I just
Absolutely.
encourage folks, if you see a police officer out and around, all it takes is give them a wave, give them a smile. They appreciate that more than you know.
Well, let me ask you, I should have asked you this before in the interview. How many people do you have under your in the department?
So with our civilian staff, we're right around 800.
Hmm.
Our sworn officer strength is authorized to be 722.
Hmm.
I just swore in 20. They're in the academy.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
if you count them, I think I am less than 100 vacancies now
Hmm.
today, but there still are. And again, they're not going to hit the road for a year, right? I swore them in this
Hmm.
week, 6 months in the academy, 6 months field training. So they don't hit the road for a year before they're really going to start to make a difference.
Well, this doesn't come up till next year, most naturally. But in the meantime, I'm going to offer you something. Is that I have like 9,800 people on my YouTube channel. Uh, I don't have Arbitron figures on this new station that I'm at, but it used to be 9,000 people. I have 14,000 people in my email list. So let me help you with that. And
Awesome.
because being a marketing guy, if it's better to be top of the mind little by little over the year rather than
Hmm.
to say I have an event and then 2 months before it advertised the event. So let me help you
Oh
out with
yeah,
that. Let me
absolutely.
talk to your guy, Greg. Your guy, Greg. Maybe I don't know if Greg does this for you, whatever. But whatever your people are, let me get together with them and we'll do some of these things because if I get 67,000 views or no, it's 87,000 views to Don Alhart's thing, maybe I can get you,
Yeah,
a few,
sounds
a
good.
few, a few extra guys that maybe weren't thinking about this before.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize. I mean, there is no residency requirement for Rochester police officers.
I
Um,
think that's a big misconception.
that is a big misconception. We actually haven't had a residency requirement in over 30 years now.
Hmm.
So, yep.
Well, good, good. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I could always bribe. Well, maybe that's not the right word. I can always cajole Todd Baxter to come over for a steak and a bourbon. So maybe I can do the same thing with you one of these days.
All right, sounds good.
Sounds good. Well, thank you ever so much for coming on the show. It was delightful to know you, meet you, and I'm sorry it took this. I'm sorry it took this long.
Well, it's all right. I've been very, very busy trying to run this place. So, like I said, we're in a good spot now. So, looking forward to being able to do more of this stuff.
Well, thanks for coming on the show.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for listening. You can find our previous shows at nononsenseroundtable.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.